Anyways. So she starts out as a...
I won't let you destroy him, Batman.
I told you to go to your cell.
I was a fool. I thought the plants were in pain. Now I realize they were evolving, growing stronger. We'll grow together.
My plans will carry you a fresh spot.
I just want to point out, this is the most Final Fantasy looking thing I've ever seen this game do.
We could probably
Ever.
also talk about the fact that this is actually one of the more iconic, I don't know what you call it. I guess iconic to a certain extent, fights in the entire game, if you think about it, really. Because Ivy's really known for this ridiculous plant getup of hers.
Yeah. It's very weirdly Final Fantasy-y.
Oh, yeah,
Which makes sense, because Square Enix.
It's also one of the most disappointing boss fights in the entire game.
I was gonna say, like, this is...
I'm actually gonna dodge around some and give you some background and talk about Ivy for a second.
There we go. So Ivy starts out as a... as the support to another minor DC villain, who also became a hero later, Playman. But the whole thing with Ivy is that she, through a series of course, very mad science-y situations...
Is it like super fertilizer or something?
It sort of changes a lot of the time. Like, usually it's like genetically modified.
But the general consensus, she's a plant.
She's a plant, yeah. She was, I mean, she's a botanist. Pamela Lillian Isley, is very, has always been very, very into plants. And basically her accident, converts her so that she can actually communicate with them and empathize with them. And there is a really interesting component to her character, which is this notion that the idea that if you identify with something that people think of as not capable of feeling pain, what kind of trauma does that give you on a daily basis? You know,
She can feel plants. It's not just she identifies with it. Plants are her.
yeah. But I think the way that she sometimes when she says they're in pain, she'll say they're in pain or she'll say we're in pain. And I think that the difference between the two of them is sort of dependent on the writing in a lot of ways. Because sometimes she's sort of like the benevolent queen of the plants. Like the benevolent goddess of the plants who is better than the plants but cares very deeply about them. And other times... Meh?
I was asking me to get caught in lines.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to wrap this up. I can't dodge well enough to keep avoiding her.
Do your thing. It's cool.
So talk.
Talking. But as once she started to sort of become her own villain in her own right, she had this very clear environmental theme, and it was a lot of, you know, her plans to take over the world are basically to eliminate the notion of humanity because they're hurting plants, they're hurting the earth. Hey, girl.
Oh, explosive gel. Right.
Explosive gel. Aww. Aww.
You won't escape.
Oh, right. You have more time than I think you do. That was stupid of me. Yeah,
I was like, aren't there stages to this?
I couldn't remember.
I need help here, boys.
Yeah, so the whole thing is usually like she just wants to cover the city in plants. She just wants to kill all the people and cover the city in plants.
And you hear me make a reference earlier to Queen's locker in an island, and I think the answer is no, as this game has chosen to prove me wrong on certain things.
Destroy you.
It's true.
So, why do you like Ivy especially? Because we made reference that she is your favorite character.
I mean, I think the big thing about Pamela is that the notion, because there are lots of Batman villains that are sort of obsessed with Batman or want to destroy the world. And the thing about Ivy is that I think she has very, very clear motivations. She really, really desperately wants the world to be fair to the people, quote unquote, the plants that
All its
she
inhabitants, essentially.
that she identifies with. So, and that's what's interesting is that as the other thing is that like I do really like her relationship with Harley. I think that the way that relationship came about, again, as the result of Paul Dini's writing in Batman the Animated Series, meant that we got to see sort of this cool female friendship.
That's turned into some weirder stuff as time's gone on.
That has turned a little bit erotic, more than a little bit erotic, actually.
Very erotic with some frequency.
Yes. But I think the other interesting thing is that Harley, you know, takes care of Ivy, but it's really Ivy who does her best to sort of make Harley wake the F up, as it were, and realize that Joker doesn't love her. And I think that the abuse narrative
And stay down?
It's been a long, hard night. Good news. Party's about to start. We've got something for everyone. Music, dancing, chemicals that create monsters. You don't want to miss it. So get your ass over to the sound block or you'll miss your final surprise.
go to the party, everyone. But yeah, I think the big thing with Ivy is that she's a very different Batman villain because her needs are different, her priorities are different, and her motivations are actually strangely altruistic. She just sees the world completely differently from how everybody else sees it. She doesn't want it to burn. It's more that she wants the plants to be safe, so she has to destroy people, if that makes sense.
It doesn't, but
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm like Team Ivy. I just think that the other thing is that she can be written really badly and sort of be this like over-sexualized.
that happens a lot.
That happens a lot. And I mean, just her costume is pretty egregious.
There was a short run. They were one-off stories. I think it was called like Inside Arkham or something like that. And they were all these very stylized, very beautiful-looking one-off stories, essentially, of several iconic Batman villains, and they all were great except for the Poison Ivy one. And because they went the too sexualized version of her, I guess is.
Well, and I
my
think
reaction.
that's why I actually like the version of Harley the version of Ivy, I should say, that is very into Harley and almost like the way that I personally conceive Ivy is as a very sort of more towards the liking women side of queer, and she has this ability to seduce men, but she generally isn't into dudes from sort of the modern standpoint. There's a lot of dudes down there.
Okay, so we're gonna have to make a choice real soon, and I know the choice I like to make in this one because you feel like a badass. But so remember that little face thing I was talking about earlier? So remember when I said Joker was insane?
Guest list only. If your
These guys
name's
wanna
not
attack
on the
you.
list, you ain't going in. Let's see. A. No, that's not right. So it's B. Bane. Ah, here it is. Batman. Hey, looks like you're the guest of honor. Give him a big welcome, guys.
Well, that's interesting.
So they'll never actually attack you. But so we have a choice to make now, Lil.
Do we attack them or not, you mean?
They are criminals
Do you
after all.
attack the identical criminals?
They are criminals after all. What do you think we should do? You can target them after all.
I think from a character standpoint, Batman has had a bad enough night that I am comfortable with him hurting these guys.
Okay!
I love how they all change all of a sudden.
So this is actually one of my favorite fights, and I know I've said that a couple times, but mostly because it's optional. It's a really nice little. If you're good at the game at this point, this room can be a lot of. If you've unlocked all the combos, if you're good at the free flow system, as you can see, I'm having just a blast with this, and it's something I actually wish more games would do. Is give me a little. Okay, the game's more or less over. I've mastered roughly the sense of how the game's supposed to work. Give me a room to show off to myself.
There is also something sort of beautifully surreal about that moment of like watching them applaud and then watching them all turn. It's a way of using the AI's own sort of limits and creepiness.
Of course.
In a very efficient way, I would say. Beautiful.
And to be fair, this is the most badass Batman feels in the entire game.
Yeah,
Just
look at
clearing out
that.
those
Look at that.
guys.
Look at that line of dudes.
So let's go make sure they didn't leave anyone alive outside still.
I can't get through here.
Nope.